Davante Adams had 83 receptions. Their next closest receiver was Allen Lazard with 35.
Yep.
So in the playoffs, if you're going to have success and you're going to make it to the big game, it's going to take some unsung heroes being able to step up. And I'm looking at the receiver core, guys other than Davante Adams, as having to have a huge imprint on how this game goes. Defensively, the Packers are going to have to be disruptive. I don't think they can line up and stop the San Francisco 49ers, whether it's the run game or those receivers, George Kittle, Deebo Samuels, Emmanuel Sanders, all those guys. I don't think they're good enough. What it's going to take is them being able to have some disruptive plays, throw that offense into long downs and distances, and put more pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo to make plays. If they can do that, I think they have a chance to pull off the upset in the Bay Area.
If you look at these two teams, Nick, besides the quarterback position, at every other level, the head coach, offense, defense, special teams, all of it, everything weighs in the favor of the 49ers.
Yeah, which is why almost all my commentary was about the quarterback position, because it's not only that I think Rodgers is one of the greatest players in the history of the league. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, he has had his moments, to his credit. Week 17, big spot against Seattle. They're either going to be the 1 seed or the 5 seed. He played well. Against the Green Bay, he played well when the Green Bay was on their heels for the 1 seed. And against New Orleans, he played great. So he has had his moments. One of them was not last week. We didn't talk about it, but he was, I would say, downright bad against the Minnesota Vikings in a spot where he had no reason to be. It's not the Vikings were getting intense pressure on him. It's not that they were trying to come from behind. Everyone knew you were going to throw. He's 11 of 19 for $131, threw a pick and could have thrown another one. I think Jimmy G is going to throw the ball to Green Bay a couple of times. If you're a Packer fan or if you're backing the Packers this week, you hope they can hold on to it. Also, Aaron Rodgers has 7 career playoff defeats. It's not only that his teams have allowed, on average, 36 points per game in those 7 defeats. And in every game except for one of the Niners games, his defense really let him down. But think about who's beaten him. Kurt Warner, the year after he went to the Super Bowl. Eli Manning, when he was already a Super Bowl champion en route to winning a second one in a game you played in. Colin Kaepernick, when he was at the peak of his powers, beat him twice. Russell Wilson, as a defending Super Bowl champion. Carson Palmer, the year Palmer finished second league MVP voting to Cam. And Matt Ryan, the year he won the league MVP. Jimmy Garoppolo ain't that. And so I don't think the Packers are going to have to deal with a dynamic quarterback on the other side of the field from Aaron. That's the other spot, to me, they have the major edge.
All right, moving on to the AFC Championship, where the Titans face a tall task against Pat Mahomes and that dominant Chiefs offense. But Derrick Henry has been unstoppable, and the Titans have won their last 4 games against KC. Chris Kenny, the Titans have any shot at all of pulling off this upset?
Yeah, Jenna, they got a shot if they continue to ride the same formula that they did in the first 2 playoff games.
Against the Patriots and the Ravens.
Against the Patriots and the Ravens, which is multiple turnovers, steal extra possessions, create short fields for your offense, and then your offensive line being able to dominate the line of scrimmage and allow Derrick Henry to do his thing. I don't think Mike Vrabel is going to get away from his formula for success. Anytime Derrick Henry rushes for over 100 yards, they win. They're 8-0. So I think they're going to continue to do more of the same, what we've seen them do the last 3 games, the regular season finale to punch their ticket to the postseason, and then, of course, their 2 playoff wins on the road, which is feed Derrick Henry, allow him to control the complexion of the game, and then, of course, have your defense be opportunistic. Now, it's a different challenge, the offense that you're going up against, compared to the one that you faced the first couple of weeks. Because this Baltimore Ravens outfit, we knew that they were a run-first team, and there were big questions about whether Lamar Jackson could throw you back in a game if you got down early. There is no question about whether or not Pat Mahomes can throw you back in the game. He answered that question last week. They're down 24-0. They scored 28 unanswered points in the second quarter alone on their way to 51 over the Texans. So I think it's a different animal when you start talking about trying to slow down this Chiefs offense. That's why I think there's got to be so much pressure on this defense to be able to get takeaways.
Well, let me just ask you real quick before I give my opinion on it. What's the minimum amount of points you think the Titans have to score if they're going to win this football game?
I would say it has to be at least 28.
At least 28. I was gonna, I was gonna say 31, but we're in the same area.
Yeah.
Even if the Titans do all the things you're talking about, you're not holding the Chiefs to 14. You're going to have to score. So, in addition to Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, who played extraordinarily this season, right? Prior to a month ago, the story of the Titans season was Ryan Tannehill, that led the NFL in passer rating, led the NFL in yards per attempt. This team looked dead in the water until they benched Mariota for Tannehill. Then they took off, and Derrick Henry obviously has been sensational. So I understand how the Titans have gotten here. But the reason I feel they have no shot is because right now the Chiefs are a sports movie. And we've seen this story before, but we see it in Hollywood more often than in real life. They're the out-of-nowhere story with the young hotshot player that is immediately the best player in the league. And then they lose in heartbreaking fashion his first year. The next year, when they're everyone's pick, some bad things happen early on. Maybe the star of the movie suffers an injury or two, and people write them off. And then quietly, they become what they were supposed to be at the beginning of the year, the best, most dominant team in the league. They've won 7 straight games. They've done it by an average of 17 points. And then, when it all mattered the most, it looked like it was all lost. You're down 24-0 before you are even close to halftime, and yet you have a lead at halftime of that game. And the star of the movie, who also doubles as the best player in the entire league, has never had a bad playoff game. He's never had a playoff turnover. He's never had a game where it was the first game of his playoff career, he doesn't score a touchdown, but they dominate that game. Second game of his playoff career against the greatest dynasty ever, he puts up 31 in the second half. And the third game of his playoff career, he does something we've never seen done in the history of the sport, leads 7 consecutive touchdown drives, missing 1 pass from the middle of the second quarter on. That story does not end with a loss to Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, and the Tennessee Titans in Kansas City. Now, maybe it ends in Miami against Rodgers, who's trying to write his own sports movie, or the Niners, who have been the most consistent team in the NFL this year. But it does not end this weekend. There are not enough answers to the questions the Chiefs present to the defense. And, Canty, I know you were on a team that executed one of the biggest upsets in the last decade or so in the playoffs when you guys beat a 15-1 Packers team. But I feel like that Packers offense was more solvable, as dominant as they were, than this Chiefs offense, because they didn't have the overwhelming speed and the overwhelming mismatches this Chiefs offense presents.
Well, here's the thing. I think physicality is the equalizer, especially when you're talking about playoff football, and that was a part of our formula for success in 2011. It's why I'm wearing a Super Bowl ring on my ring finger today. But I look at this Chiefs team, and I think it's clear to me that the Tennessee Titans are the more physical team than the Kansas City Chiefs, which is why I think it's important for the Titans to put their imprint on the game early and establish that level of physicality, because that's how you slow down a fast team. You get your hands on them early and often, and then you get them to turn down when you have opportunities for contact. I think that's their only chance. They have to muck this game up if they're going to have a chance at being able to slow down this track team that is the Chiefs offense.
Jen, I sat right here 2 months ago when Patrick Mahomes came back from his injury, and I said the Kansas City Chiefs were not going to lose again until next season. They immediately then lost to these Tennessee Titans, and they have not lost since. They lost to the Texans during the year, just beat them, lost to the Titans during the year. They're going to beat them in about 53 hours.
I'm with you, Nick.
Thank you, Jen.
Undisputed starts right